When we all wake up every day, every single person in the organization has the ability to influence the outcome. I saw one light bulb burned out in the side, and I would say that guy doesn't care about his business because one letter in his 5-letter name is burned out, and he's not here late at night, because if he was, he would see it. This guy comes when it's light, and he leaves before it's dark. Would I be right?
You'd be right. Absolutely.
See, now that's where you and I differ. Grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding on them. You have that ferocity about yourself, which is what your guys love about you. Their families, though, don't love that about you. The only reason that I can tell you all those things is because it's a microcosm of who I am. And it's not a great way to live.
Hi, I'm Jay Aldebert, and for the last 25 years as a business coach, I've been involved with about 80,000 separate small and medium-sized businesses. I had the esteemed experience of actually sitting down with Marcus Lemonis, TV host. You may know him from The Prophet, The Fixer. He's an investor, philanthropist, and an unconditional lover of small and medium-sized business. The content was a little off-brand. Obviously, usually I'm looking at techniques of making profit by design. But in order to be able to do that, there are techniques that are used, obviously, to get to the client. If you're in sales and you have doesn't matter what you do for a living, actually, we're all in sales at the end of the story. The debate and discussion went on to discuss different techniques of really getting in front of the client and connecting and gaining rapport and trust. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's have a look.
So let's start with this.
Okay.
Everybody in the company, no matter what their role is, generates or has the ability to either generate revenue or save revenue from falling away.
I agree with that.
Because if I'm in the billing department, and most people that are big salespeople would look at the billing department and be dismissive. Those are just the accounting people.
That's the overhead, quote unquote.
But when a client doesn't pay, and when the administrative office is talking to that client, finding out why it doesn't pay, we usually find out why. I don't like what I'm getting, I can't afford it, I'm in trouble. And that relationship right there is almost sometimes equally as important because it's retention.
For sure, and the marketer, better than the marketer, itself. Because their relationship is the client always feels like they're going to be sold.
Yeah.
That relationship, they may prey upon empathy for what's going on with them at that particular time.
That's right.
I see it.
So I think that's the one shift that I would say to everybody in the organization is that when we all wake up every day, every single person in the organization has the ability to influence the outcome. And for me, the outcome is revenue or preventing it from being lost.
Right.
So I want to start with that premise.
I like that. I can appreciate that.
And so of those 1,200 people, 600 of them are dedicated to sales?
Just sales. So the BCs, business coordinators, they're the ones that set the leads, about 5 per salesperson, peppered throughout the United States. We used to be United States and Canada. I'm originally a hire from Toronto.
Yep. Business development coordinator.
That's what they are, yeah. So they get all these leads.
Which is an underappreciated job, by the way.
I do appreciate it because
it's an underappreciated job. For all the salespeople that think that's not a hard job, that's a really hard job.
Yeah. 94% of the time being told no or hung up on and so on and so forth. You need a certain personality to accept that for sure.
So there's a group of people that wake up every day trying to keep the lights on in the building by setting appointments so that the closers can come in.
To those businesses, yeah, and sell an analysis. That's what they sell.
So that's the first step of revenue.
Correct.
And talk to me about that. What happens?
So an analysis is structured as a 2-day view of their business. Now, if you look at it from how they market it, it's where we're coming in to look at how to improve your company.
Yep.
If you look at it from our side, it's kind of an intervention. I think you're going to kind of appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're going in, and yes, there's business side we're going to look at. We're going to look at sales, marketing, operations, finance, tax, all those different things. But the person in front of us, that is a whole trip on its own. We've got to figure out what drives them, what's going to change their behavior. We're going into personality styles and how they make decisions. We're going into shadow driver story, like the Carl Jung approach sort of thing, figuring out that shadow driver story and using that to weaponize possible tasks they're going to have to do to improve their company.
Or themselves.
Or themselves, exactly.
And how often do you find that it's themselves more than it is their company?
100% of the time. I don't want to be disparaging, but
No.
it's so true.
Listen, even in my own businesses, when things aren't going well, it requires a really bird's eye view in the mirror. It requires you to look at yourself. And when people say to me all the time, like, oh, it's really awesome that you help these businesses, it's like, I'm really not helping the business. I'm helping the business owners or the business leaders to learn how to be the best version of themselves to help their business. I'm not the one that helps their business. I'm not a mechanic.
Right.
I don't know how to turn wrenches, but I understand that personality. When you think about the types of industries that you serve today, and I think serve's the right word, right? We're there to serve them. Give me an idea of what those look like.
I would say that it depends if you want to look at it from a profitability standpoint.
No, types
Just
of industries.
Types of industries.
Auto repair.
Auto repair, any trade whatsoever. Manufacturers, usually like a tier 3, manufacturer of some
Yep.
sort.
Welders.
Welders,
Fabricators.
yeah.
Okay.
We dabble in transportation, we dabble in retail, we dabble in wholesale.
Talk to me about dabbling in transportation. What does that mean?
I'm glad you asked the one I find most difficult. Being able to get a better sense. So one of the biggest things we look at in a client, especially in transportation,
Yep.
is you've got this trucking company. The guy's gone out and bought a bunch of trucks, just tons of trucks, because he's selling and he's brokering, selling and brokering, gets a bunch of trucks, a bunch of trailers.
Short haul, long haul type
all
of.
over the place,
Yep.
yeah. And the issue is we walk in and they're almost addicts to that purchasing. Like we've got to kind of say, like, do you understand like how much profit your company has to make based off of all the decisions you just made? Because every debt payment is essentially the
Cash
minimum
flow
mandatory
requirement.
profit. Exactly.
Yeah.
So being able to take that individual, that is the hardest part about the transportation, is make them to understand this is your debt service, this is your working capital, this is the minimum profit you have to make based on all the decisions you made up to me walking in the door. And as a result, we look at things like cost per mile, we look at things in terms of what's a break even on each individual truck and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of how we look at it. When I say it's not my favorite one, it doesn't have enough moving parts for me particularly. I like a lot of moving parts, like a lot more
Complexity?
just labor-oriented businesses where there's value add by labor. I buy a piece of material, I add labor to that material.
The reason you like it is because it's the thing you know the most.
Probably, 100%.
So let's unpack the thing you know the least.
Okay, trucking industry.
Uh-huh.
We'll say that.
And you're not excited about it, but does it pay its bills the same way?
Yes.
Are the margins different?
I think the duration of the projects are different. That's probably a better way to put it. They're a much shorter project. It's because of the lack of moving parts.
Is it contributory to the company?
Yes. Yes.
And if it went away, would it be impactful?
It would be.
Okay, so let's establish that. So the trucking business is your transportation is what you're going to call it, but we can call it trucking because that's what it is. So if I was driving up, are they dealers?
In terms of
Are they truck part dealers, truck dealers, or are they just movers of goods and services?
movers of goods and services.
Okay.
We do have obviously the truck part side of it and truck repair side of it, all that kind of stuff. But
So if I had a trucking company in Gurnee,
okay, got it.
because there's a lot around there.
Yes.
And I had a giant warehouse that I bought years ago, and I got excited and I went out and signed all of these fleet leases because I got put together. And instead of having 4 trucks at 100% efficiency, I have 8 trucks at 50% efficiency, but my payments are on 8 trucks, not 4. Am I setting that up pretty good so far?
I got you. I'm following. Yeah.
And I walk in the door, and the owner is the smartest guy in the room. And the owner built the business, him or herself. They understand their craft really well, and they have a lot of pride. Do I have that right so far? And so anything that points out their deficiencies or mistakes can be taken personally.
And very defensive. Yeah, they're very defensive.
And anything that you do to turn somebody off or make them defensive usually results in the first appointment and sometimes the last appointment.
Last one. Yeah. It's that's where the psychology comes in for us, right? is I really have to understand our owners. We try and we train our employees how to really get to understand that person and break down those walls.
How?
Okay. Bluntly, we call it a come to Jesus meeting. That's the title. I'm not
Yep.
saying but that's the title. And what we do.
How do you dress when you go there?
There is two types of looks, and we actually take the country, right?
I know.
So there could be jeans and a sport coat and an open shirt. That's one way. Other people feel more comfortable in suits, but at least you got to look like.
Other people meaning the person who's pitching the product?
Let's say the analyst, yeah.
What about the person who's receiving the pitch?
They tend to dress obviously towards their industry, whatever their industry requires.
Which means they could have anything on.
Anything.
They could have a greasy t-shirt and some jeans on. How often do you meet business owners like that are wearing a sport coat?
Not very often, but that is a certain personality when you see that, though. I think I know where you're going with
Do
this.
you?
Well, I think you're saying, like, are you right off the hop? Are you mirroring your client on their level, in some way? I think, and you're kind of maybe insinuating that.
I'm not insinuating anything,
No.
but my message to the sales organization would be, is that you have to start, in my opinion, what's worked for me is to become a chameleon and to adapt to the environment. And you know the old adage of like, know your audience. But what are the things that I need to know about somebody like that?
So when we talk about knowing your audience, there's a certain personality style sitting in front of us, and we think of that as a language.
Is it a personality that you're?
If you go to like the DISC system, right? It is a lot, because if you have a driver personality who's a mechanic, he will dress up a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? I've seen it over and over again. However, if he's an amiable type personality, they're going to be in comfort overall. So we kind of have an opinion, I guess is the best way to put it, but experience that says, I'm going to find out the personality of that individual, and a lot of these things come true when we walk in and see this organization. What kind of vehicle they have out front, what color is that vehicle? What does their office look like? Do they have pictures, not pictures? How are the pictures facing? All those start telling us what kind of personality style is in front of us and the language they speak. So if we know they're uncomfortable based off of what we're wearing that particular day, whether it's a suit coat, whether we go to lunch and take the tie off, whether we come back in jeans the next day, those are kind of a morph that we do, because it is a 2-day process. But we do start off, walking in, not in a full suit, but at least looking professional.
And in your mindset, does that level of professionalism say to the potential client, because that's what I'm going to call them in the moment, I have something you don't, I am something you're not, I possess something you don't have?
I think if I showed up in a t-shirt and shorts, it doesn't matter what my acumen is at that point. I think that client still would see me as not so professional, and not receive the
Credible.
messages. Credible, exactly. Receive the message the same way. So I think starting off in that position, I walked in, I did it for a decade, and I would walk in with a suit jacket on and very quickly take it off, especially if I could see they're not dressed like that, and they probably are making fun of it in their head, I guess.
Yeah.
I immediately
Who's this suit that just walked through my door?
Exactly. Take off the suit, roll up the sleeves, just kind of a little bit of the mirroring to but still have that professionalism.
When I used to go spend time in service departments, collision repair departments, light manufacturing, welding, fabricating, plastic extrusion, I would always dress a certain way, but I would go in and I would say to them, I just want you to know right off the rip, I dress this way today because I want you to know that I have respect for you and your business. It's the first thing that I would tell them. And I would wait for their reaction. And what I'm essentially saying is like, this isn't how I normally am, but I did this out of respect because I take what you do seriously, what you have at stake seriously, and I didn't want you to think that I was being flippant about it. And then I would just be quiet. And usually they would give me the roadmap in that moment of exactly what they thought. Because I would come in and say, hey, I just want you to know, I don't know what you think about what I'm wearing, but the only reason that I wore this today is because it's a sign of respect to you and to your business.
That's really good.
And then I would And then what would normally happen after that?
There will be they would say, yeah, it would be uncomfortable if you came in this. I think that would be the response. And so then it's almost telling you what not to do or how not to communicate with them. You know, you would look pretentious in our industry if you were wearing a suit. That's when I think my response
Normally they would say thank you.
Oh, for sure.
They would say thank you. And then once they said thank you, which is maybe 8 times out of 10 they would say that because you said to them, I have respect for you, I have respect for what you do, I have respect for your business, and I have respect for your time. And when you tell people right out of the gates that respect is the absolute framework of how the relationship's going to work, just from a physical appearance, your ability to broach other subjects starts to become a little easier. And so the next thing I would do after I would talk about how I dressed is I would say, do you mind giving me a tour?
For sure.
And I would say, before we do that, do I have permission to ask questions? Because I don't know a lot about your business and I want to understand it, but I would know a lot about their business.
Right.
And so I did it on you, by the way, since we've been sitting
Okay.
here, where I started dropping little nuggets and terms that you would know that I didn't just like read it somewhere. Like I would talk about like a fab shop. I would use other terms and I would try to take every misconception that business owner would potentially have, particularly in what I would call a heartbeat profession. And a heartbeat profession for me is that this country is really built on people that move trucks, build things, do plumbing, they do electrical, they fix things, they work with their hands, they don't care about their appearance, they work 12, 15-hour days, they're on their feet, they cut their hands, you can tell what a good hard day's work looks like.
Right.
That's a heartbeat profession. And this whole country, in my opinion, was built on it. We've gotten away from it. They're typically patriots. They're typically ex-military or some connection to military. They typically grew up blue collar. They typically they did not have necessarily the advantage of extended education because they needed to go to work right away, because they came from a family that did the same kind of thing. They're used to 6 and 7 day work weeks. They're used to not being with their family. They're used to a lot of different things. And the fact that you kind of understand who that persona is back to that chameleon thing.
Some of you mentioned about the company tour. We find that one of the most fascinating experiences in our relationship development with a client. Usually our relationship when we start off is educational, right? We're educating them about some business acumen along the way, which is important for us to do. Like once we have some sort of rapport. But going on that company tour, we learn so much about the personality, the person, what they're proud of. And for us, when we ask questions, we want to learn about that product or service like it's the prettiest girl in the room, right? Genuinely.
Who are you asking the questions to?
The business owner.
So that's my second thing for you to consider.
Okay.
When I ask the business owner if we could take a tour, I typically ask them, is it okay that I ask questions? They're going to say, sure. And my next follow-up would be, of everybody that works here? And I'll do it with you, but it helps me to understand their perspective. Here's why I do that. The business owner has one perspective. And what perspective is that?
From the top.
Their perspective. And usually when there's a disconnect in a business, the disconnect often is between the folks that actually do the work and the people that own the business. And if you and I were taking a tour and you were the owner and I was working for you. Okay. I just pretend I work for you. You're two people. You're the owner of the business and I'm one of your sales agents.
Gotcha.
I would want you to know, if I was working for you, that I was going to immerse myself so deep in that business to convert, that the way that I would demonstrate my knowledge is to have the business owner see me interact with other people in a way where I would drop all the vernacular and I would speak to those people as if I worked on the floor. I have one goal in that moment. In that whole first, how long is that tour? Hour, hour and a half?
Yeah, ours is usually about 60 minutes, yeah.
I have one goal, and that is I want that person to say to themselves, this guy's like one of us. I wouldn't try to be the smartest person in the room.
No, not with them.
I wouldn't give them any advice or opinions. I would just ask, excuse my French, a shit ton of questions.
Right.
And then I would start to dialogue with people, and I would know that the interview that was happening in that moment was between you interviewing me, watching me interact with him. So I don't know if there's, I'm going to have you change roles for a minute. You're
Okay.
going to be the worker.
Got it.
Pick a business that you want to go into.
Electrical contracting.
Great. And what happens, what kind of warehouse are we in?
In terms of facility,
Yeah.
we are doing, let's say, residential construction or electrical. So
Okay.
kind of a small. We don't really need a lot because parts are small, wires are small.
2,500 square foot space.
Exactly. Yeah.
What am I seeing in the warehouse? Anything?
Are you seeing inventory all over the ground usually, or is that what you're asking?
Well, but what am I seeing in that? Like, what people am I seeing and what things am I seeing? Because I can visualize it in my head.
Yeah, in my head, what I visualize is you have somebody that's in control of inventory. There's a few trucks in the yard, wherever
Yeah.
whatever the yard means.
Yeah.
Their responsibility is to
Single
keep
bay door in the back.
single bay door in the back, exactly.
In a strip like industrial plaza.
Usually, yeah.
One door in the front, small little lobby, couple offices, and a small warehouse.
Somewhere to do, obviously, bids. That's the biggest use of square footage is
Yeah.
where are we going to do the bids. But yeah, that's
Some parts inside, maybe on a little bit of inventory.
a little bit of inventory, a lot of it on the trucks, of course, and then to be able to refill. But yeah,
How many people are working there?
in that one, let's say in that size, I'd say there is 5 in the field and 5 in the office. Believe it or not, I think that's usually the split.
And the field guys are out by 7?
Hopefully, yeah, definitely. Hopefully,
And so you're not really going to interact with them unless you show up
to the job site.
or you show up before they leave.
Right.
Are they dispatching from the office or are they dispatching from their home?
We prefer to tell them it's a good idea to dispatch from the office. We prefer
That's why
that.
I asked.
Okay. But owners have kind of said, well, we prefer, we give them the truck to go home or whatever. We don't like that from so many different reasons, but
Yeah.
asset protection issues, et cetera. But yeah, usually it should be from the office.
I don't like that because we're not dispatching the right man on the right job.
Okay.
I don't know what his attitude is that day. I don't know how his efficiency is. I'm going to look at his efficiency and make sure he's making himself and me money. I want to understand what he did yesterday. I want to go over all his open work orders to make sure they're closed. And I only need to see him for 5 minutes. Does that happen?
In most businesses?
Yeah.
No. We know it doesn't. We know it should, but I don't see it happening a lot. In the ones we've dealt with, for sure.
The interesting thing for me is even in our dialogue today, as I'm asking you questions, I'm hoping that you're saying to yourself, all right, this guy kind of knows a little bit about what's happening. He understands the visual, he understands what should happen versus what doesn't happen. What's happening with you as the owner as I'm asking you those questions?
Well, if I'm just sitting here in first person right now,
Yeah.
there are things that I'm picking up that I will kind of immediately put into my training structure with my analysts, believe it or not, specifically how you approach the owner and what they're wearing very specifically, but the questions that you're asking on the floor during the tour, I actually really like that. We've kind of gone both ways a little bit, and everybody seems to like to do interviews with employees after. But I think learning about the product and the process. And
Have you ever seen
not
my
using
show?
your buzzwords
Have you ever
when I
seen
say
my
it.
show?
Yeah.
And so when I go to a business, in any kind of business, I know nothing about the business, nothing before I go.
Okay.
When I say nothing, zero.
The business or the industry specifically? In most
I know
cases?
nothing. I may have experienced parts of the industry before, but when I go, I intentionally don't educate myself, don't do any research, don't ask. I don't see any financials. I don't know anything about their story. I know nothing. And the reason is because I want the owner and the viewer, but the owner in this case, or the other employees, to go on the journey with me. And I want to give you a TV term that we'll talk about tonight with your team, which is arrival and discovery. I'm very conscientious about understanding what I think that business, how that business functions, and I'm very conscientious about when I show up. So I'll give you an example. If I was, give me any kind of business that you would go to in all the industries.
Auto repair. Auto repair is a good one.
Yeah, so the time that I would show up to an auto repair shop for my first day would probably be around noon.
Okay. Interesting.
Ask me why.
Why would you show up at noon?
Because I want to understand what the pace of the day is like so far and when people decide to go have lunch. Do they go have lunch in the middle of the job or do they finish the job beforehand? Do they order the parts before they go or do they do it after lunch? And do they see themselves as basically managing time or managing the job? And when I ask people that, particularly in an auto repair business, they would say, well, I'm managing fixing that car. Well, I don't understand why you're asking me that question. I'd say, well, do you consider yourself, if I was talking to a technician, do you consider yourself a professional? He's like, no, I don't consider myself a professional. I'm just a blue collar guy. Look at my hands. Do I look like a professional to you? And I say, do you have a lawyer? And they would say, yeah. And say, how does your lawyer charge you?
By the hour.
And how do you charge?
By the hour.
So what's the difference between you and your lawyer?
Both professionals.
Right. And so do you feel like if you showed up to your lawyer's office and he didn't have his shit together, would you have him still be your lawyer?
Hard to trust that, yeah.
And if you went into his office, and we'll call it his bay, and there was stuff all over the place, and I know what it's like, because when I was a kid, I used to be the jockey that would be required to clean up the bay. When I was a little kid, I'd never have had the skill or the patience or the intelligence to know how to fix a car. I want to tell you that, Mr. Mechanic. I don't know how to do what you know how to do. When I was a kid, I was assigned to be your gopher. I would sweep your bay. I would organize your tools. I would get your parts. Why was I doing all of that?
Learning the craft.
Well, no, my dad was just breaking my ass. But at the same time, it wasn't because I was learning the craft. It's because the owner of the place that assigned me to that thought your time was so valuable that he didn't want you to take one step that you didn't have to. And that my job at $6 an hour was to increase your efficiency. Why?
Because you're the one that pays, and you're the one that gets paid for the job. And if you can do it productively, obviously I make more profit.
Well, what the owner would tell me is that at $6 an hour, my job is to make sure that you make $36 an hour.
Right.
And you have an 8-hour workday. But what if I could get you 9 or 10 hours of output in 8 hours? That was my job. And so when we start talking about different questions, I want you to A, know you're a professional, B, know that my job is to serve you. And if I'm the owner of the repair shop, what is my job? My job is to make sure that the lab that you're working in, the bay that you're working in, has all the power and electricity, you have all the tools, it's clean, it's lit properly, the temperature's perfect. When you show up, your work's already dispatched. You're not standing at the back parts counter waiting for somebody to show up to get you your part. If my parts people don't do a good job, that screws you up, then that screws me up. And it's not all the shit runs downhill from there, right? Mm-hmm. Do you value your time?
Absolutely.
Do your feet hurt?
Absolutely.
Why do your feet hurt?
Cold floor, hard floor, it's concrete.
So my job is to make sure that your feet hurt less and there's more cash in your pocket. And if I don't help you make more money, there's no reason for me to be here.
Solid. It is.
And so what I was telling you about being a chameleon is by getting down on the level and putting yourself at a place that feels inferior to them from their craft, equal to them intellectually, and superior to them in your requirement to serve them. And I think that model, when you're dealing with a heartbeat profession, and that's what I'm going to keep calling it, and we're going to talk about that with the team. this heartbeat profession is, these are the hardest working Americans in the country. They are the most underappreciated American workers in the country. And they are the most underpaid American workers in the country.
True.
Does your sales force know that?
I'm sure you're seeing the light bulb go on, yeah. I think they comprehend it. Do they understand it and live it on a daily basis? I don't think so.
The tradesman or woman, the truck driver, the mechanic, the welder, all this stuff that's around us,
Craftsman, yeah.
the houses that we live in, every single one of them had something to do with making our life better. What are you going to do to make theirs better? Because if they go away, we're totally not in good shape.
Not in good shape. Yeah. No, that's a calling for sure. And I think our consultants and our analysts need to be reminded of that how brilliant you are that day has an impact not only on that owner, but obviously those other 15 families or whatever it is in the organization.
Can I give you a different word than brilliant? How relatable you are.
Relatable.
Relatability equals conversion, in my opinion.
I see that.
Because you're creating a connection with people.
I definitely see that. I like that.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
What's the number one challenge that you think your team has?
I think is that we learn what we should do and we don't always put the empathy and emotion behind it, I guess is the best way to put it. Like I can give you, let's say a 2-day analysis of a business and we have all these different steps and we do this next and so on and so forth. And I think the biggest thing is always keeping that level of reverence for the client, empathy obviously, and although you've ran 100 analysis this year, like you've ran, the client hasn't, right? This is their only one, it's the most important. So being able to actually feel and put your heart on the line, put your emotion behind your craft with that client, I think that's the biggest problem because we compensate well at our, for each position, we do compensate
you should.
well.
Yeah.
And I think
It's a hard job, by the way.
It is. And I think people, doing it day in and day out and going all over the country, they're going to 2 to 3 different cities in the country every week. That's how many an analyst goes to. Salesperson kind of stays around their house but drives 6 hours around. And so keeping them.
So let me just understand the hierarchy of the company.
Okay.
I have a coordinator that's making cold calls and setting up appointments.
Mostly inside of our building in Arlington Heights.
Got it.
Yep.
Business Development Center, BDC. I don't know what you guys call it.
Yeah, BC, yeah. Salespeople are next.
Would you consider adding D to it?
Explain.
So a business coordinator sounds like I'm an advertising coordinator.
Okay.
Business is about developing relationships, and it's about developing ideas, and it's about developing best practices, and it's about developing rapport, and it's about developing the comfort with that potential client to get an appointment. Mm-hmm. If you're just coordinating business, you sound like a secretary. But there's a certain skill that sits in between business and coordination, which is the development of the entire idea. And so I would encourage you, even if you don't change the name, to look at those folks and really understand that that appointment is the most important thing that happens in the company. The most important thing. And do they do appointment confirmation right before as well?
That is correct, yeah.
So
there's only a percentage, I'll be blunt, there's only a percentage on confirmation. They might do 15% of all leads on the street were reconfirmed, I guess is the best way to put it.
Cold call.
Yep.
Second call. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen on the first. Yes, I'll take a meeting.
Yes.
The meeting is scheduled for X. Meeting confirmation call.
Meeting confirmation call based on volume of the client. If it's a $20 million company, there's more of a confirmation side of things. If it's a $1 million company, not so much.
Why?
That I actually don't understand. I think they all should be confirmed. But
is it essentially a yield? Is it a time yield management?
It is, because the one factor that each department maybe, and I didn't explain, is we're always on a next day start of everything. So next day start on the leads that we set on a Monday are set for Tuesday. The sales that they make on Tuesday are set for a Wednesday analysis. The 2-day analysis that is run Thursday and Friday, and in terms of consulting work that we're going to do, starts on Monday.
Strike while it's hot.
Yeah, it's a constant. It's that emotional decision supported by logic, which is, I don't want to drink anymore. I'm going to AA. That
today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the intervention mentality.
Correct.
So no air in between for you to reject my idea.
We firmly believe that, like, your understanding, every conversation you ever have, the average human being, 17% or something like that. So whatever benefit you've developed in whatever relationship at any point in that relationship, we think it falls off every 24 hours, right? Whatever their understanding of the benefit, in their mind, whatever it is, falls off every 24 hours. To call somebody up and say, well, next Thursday we'll come out and we'll start this consulting engagement, we have as a percentage, I think the number is 0.4% of follow through on what we call deferred decisions or deferred goes. So it is strike while the iron's hot, but it also is change, and change, has to happen now.
So business coordinator sets the call, salesperson takes the appointment, salesperson converts the analysis appointment.
Correct. Next business day.
So now I'm dealing with the third person as a business owner?
3-step close.
And then the analysis appointment is the arrival and discovery process, and I'm going to be immersed with you for 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
Ding to dong.
Yep.
And do I ever show up before the place opens? What's the technique there?
There is a responsibility of the analyst to go and research as much as they can, go to the physical location, see what they see, like, do they have a bunch of trucks in the yard? Do they have no trucks in the yard?
Before they meet the owner?
For sure, yeah. So I want them to kind of have a good lay of the land and what they see. If they're in early enough, like a lot of times they're getting on a plane on Tuesday for Wednesday's job.
Yeah.
But if they have a drive job, going by there if they possibly can when they're just closing and seeing what's happening.
Yeah. I am going to ask you
Okay.
and everybody else in the organization
Right.
once in a while to try not to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. The way our brains are wired, particularly in business, is that everything that we say to people is a learned behavior. And so the arrival of AI, which is everywhere and freaking everybody out,
Right.
is built off of what?
A learning model.
Right. Your brain is the exact same way.
Right.
So AI is essentially trying to replicate and accelerate how a human brain works, right?
For sure.
Okay. And so if you keep typing in the same thing to AI and you ask the same question over and over again and you have the same style over and over again, if you use chat, it starts to take on your persona and it understands how you think and how you act and how all those things work. When you go in and you do research before you meet, you physically go to the place and you do research before you meet, you come into that first conversation having predetermined answers in your mind. You've arrived in, this guy doesn't, da, 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 da. And whether you agree with it or not, I don't mean you, but whether the person agrees with it or not, you come in a little hot in your mind, even if you can temper your behavior, because you've seen 3 trucks and you know what that's a sign of.
Right.
Except it may not be a sign of anything. And the more that you replicate that same learned behavior over and over again, you don't give yourself and that other person an opportunity to be unique in their problem and to have a unique answer to their problem. Because you start to think it's prescriptive. Oh, I've seen this one before.
Right.
I know what a dirty shop looks like. And a dirty shop means this. And if I see this, that means that. And you get yourself into this learned model where you're not asking the questions because you already think you know the answer.
So you're saying that my problem, which we were discussing, is people are just delivering the lines and not feeling the passion? Do you think that
No.
is because they've researched too much and have that preconceived notion?
No, now that I've spent time with you, visually, if I was going to see you again, I would assume that you like to be different. I would assume that part of your personality trait is you like to stand out. Nobody would normally get matching shoes to match their bow tie and then have matching suspenders.
Gotcha.
So the next time I would see you, I would try to neutralize it by wearing something that was also a little different.
Gotcha.
That would be a technique that I would use.
I got it.
I'd be like, oh, this guy's kind of different too, creating commonality.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew it up front, and I did all this research and I knew that you did different, I would come in trying too hard. And I would come in maybe trying to be a little bit more like you.
Personality-wise or otherwise?
I would just
Whatever,
I would wear blue shoes.
Right.
Because I would think that would be, that would make us have more of a connection.
Rapport, yeah.
You would smell that. And you would say to yourself, nobody could be this interesting like me.
Gotcha.
To be that way. And the only reason I would do that is because I did too much research in advance. And if I took that and I applied it to what I saw in the shop or what I saw outside, or I saw the sign outside and I saw one light bulb burned out in the side, and I would say that guy doesn't care about his business because one letter in his 5-letter name is burned out and he's not here late at night, because if he was, he would see it. And I know that it's dark late and he must not get here early. So in my mind, if I saw that light bulb burned out, I would say to him, this guy comes when it's light and he leaves before it's dark.
Good assessment.
Would I be right?
You would be right. Absolutely.
See, now that's where you and I differ. I would say that I drew all of those conclusions because I had preconceived notions, because I met another person on another day and that happened to be true. And then I cast it on that person. And I would come in a little hot, and the first question I would ask is, what time did you get here today? What time do you normally go home?
Go home, yeah.
And I would start putting this person on the defensive, because in my LMM, I had this belief when I typed it into chat. What kind of business owner is personality if the light bulb on their sign was burned out? I'd say it would be a person that doesn't show up on time and leaves early. And I would come in and I would have that already. If I came in without any of those things and I just started asking questions and I would say, hey, did you notice? If I really noticed it for the first time, I would say, hey, we should check the breaker. And he would say, why? And I would say, because I think that the fuse must be blown. The fuse must have blown this morning.
Putting it as, it could have just happened, yeah.
Right? And what would he say to me?
I've never noticed. Probably I'll never notice.
Or,
yeah.
or,
Let's go look.
Or, I've been meaning to get to that.
Saving a little face, but obviously.
But he's going to give you, you're going to sort of like ask a question that starts to unpack who that person is. And based on his answer, not based on my own preconceived notions or my own learned behavior, or me saying, well, that guy's this way, so he must be this way. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. I can see how that, from a training standpoint for my people, is I maybe have pushed a little too hard on figure out who your client is ahead of time, as opposed to go on that journey with them and develop it without any preconceived. So I can definitely see what you're saying.
We're going to open up tonight with one kind of theme, which is be curious, not critical.
I like that.
And if you go back and you watch my technique with, even on the show, it's how I am in normal life. It's just, I go in with this insatiable amount of curiosity. I would want to have so much curiosity that I would never tell you what I was really thinking because I would be too busy being curious.
And you come across genuine in that way too, because you're really
'Cause I
trying to
genuinely
learn.
am.
Yeah, you're trying to learn about that
It's not
person.
like I have the answer
Right.
and I'm trying to get a gotcha.
Yeah.
I genuinely have the answer, and people can sense when you're genuinely asking questions. So think about how we met. I started asking you guys a million questions.
For sure.
And all of a sudden, everybody's temperature came down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started telling me more. And the more questions I ask you, the more you tell me. At some point, I had a little fun with you, and I said, oh, when are you guys getting married? Everybody laughed. She became more of my friend than you were.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the room changed. I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know what your living situation was. But we started to develop a really quick rapport. And if I had kept going, and I went out and I said, I'm going to describe this guy to you. Want me to describe you to the room?
Sure.
Can I do it right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I would say that you had, this is a guess. I have no information to support this, okay? And I'm probably going to be wrong about most of it.
Don't give it away.
I would say that you wake up every day with an intense ferocity to prove a lot of people wrong. I would say that people have doubted you your whole life, and that the one thing you love about leading people is that you're leading people who you think are a lot like you. I would say that you spend more time worrying about them than anybody else and their own success, because you've convinced yourself that they're a reflection of you and that their work products is a reflection of you. I would say that you work an insane amount, because if you didn't, you would feel guilty, not bored. And when you feel guilty, you think that, well, I'm asking all of my guys to hump it, to visit 3 cities in 3 days, to be away from their families, so I have to demonstrate the same thing. When instead, I'm not giving them the kind of balance in their brain that they need, even though I really need it. I'm not making a commitment to my personal life just yet, because I'm so ingrained in what I'm doing, and I have to hit my numbers, and I got to be there for my guys, and maybe I'm going to have to be gone for a week if I take a honeymoon, or maybe I'm going to have to leave early to go plan something. And you have that ferocity about yourself, which is what your guys love about you. Their families, though, don't love that about you, because they feel like if they don't chase you and they don't work, it's this vicious cycle where you work like an insane amount because you feel guilty that you're asking them to, and they work an insane amount because they feel like they're going to disappoint you if they don't, and all of a sudden everybody's just doing a bunch of this. Grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding on them. Anything close?
Not even close.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Wow.
And I think if it took me, well, the only reason that I can tell you all those things is because it's a microcosm of who I am. And it's not a great way to live.
Yeah.
And I decided to make that shift like 5 or 6 years ago, when I started realizing that the way to get more out of people is to let them be the best version of themselves, not the version I wanted them to be as a shadow of me. Only one guy can have a shadow, and that may be Jesus, or whatever faith you have, or our parents, or our bosses, or our founders. But as a leader, and by the way, your whole team, they're leaders as well. They're leading the businesses that they are taking money from. They need to be the best version of whoever they are, whatever their personality is, because all we're trying to do is get to 4% conversion. But it does start with you. And I'm not just saying it to you, I'm saying it to them.
Yeah.
You got a little uncomfortable.
That was good, first of all.
But are you uncomfortable?
No,
Is he uncomfortable?
The jaw.
to be
Oh, I could tell when he clenches his jaw.
to be read that easy, that was
Well, no, it's just because I asked you a lot of questions.
right.
And that's what I want our sales organization to do with the clients that they work with today and the ones they're trying to secure. Just immerse yourself in those people. Become one of them. And right now, because I'm a chameleon, I'm just a guy wearing a powder blue bow tie, the same as you, thinking like you, reacting like you. I thought it was interesting that it was black tie.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. What was the strategy behind that?
In terms of
Yeah, I'm just curious.
why would you say black tie?
Yeah.
I think it was like a lot of the employees don't dress up who work inside, I guess is the best way to put it. And to be able to kind of have that dressed up esteem and celebration of success, yeah.
You did it out of respect for them. The same way, when you go to a business, you dress properly out of respect to the other person. And our mothers used to tell us, you can never be too dressed up,
Right.
but you can definitely be
Dressed
dressed down. And you will never get a girl or a job if you're not dressed properly.
So true.
I think you should address the tuxedo thing tonight. And I think you should say to people, I want you to know that the reason that we do this is because why? I'm asking you.
Because obviously out of respect for you and celebrate you, the individuals who obviously propel the company forward. I mean, in simplest forms, yeah.
I want you to have a little fun with that tonight.
Okay.
Is there any way that you and I can interact during the hour?
Yeah.
I typically prefer wild interaction with people.
Okay.
And I mean wild in terms of volume,
Gotcha.
as opposed to just talking at people. So do you have a mic that you'd be able to do this with me?
Do you want me to walk around as well with the mic, or just me?
I want
interacting?
you to do this hour with me.
Okay.
And I'm going to challenge you with them, and we're going to challenge other people here. Because what we want to do tonight is walk away feeling that 2026 is going to be the year of being the best version of yourself and taking the company culture and standards and mixing that with the best version of yourself. So being the best version of yourself doesn't mean you don't follow process. It doesn't mean that you're not respectful to your coworkers. It doesn't mean that you change the methodology in which we convert from a lead to a sale. But what it does mean is we want to give you a little flexibility with your personality and your style to give you that opportunity to be that much better, which who knows if it's even possible, than 25 was.
That'll be inspiring. I'm not just saying
But
it.
that
like,
applies to you too.
Yeah, I understood that part.
So getting engaged would not be a terrible thing.
Not a terrible thing, yes.